Well, hello, there's their meeting, let's wait.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Right, not my meeting, our meeting. Oh, look at all those people.
All right.
So,
Seeing that it is 7 o'clock, I'll call this joint meeting of the Community and Economic Development Authority and Housing Advisory Committee to order. Next item on our agenda is the roll call. Joyce?
So I'm gonna, excuse me, I'm gonna start with Theta, Arata Frada, Clary, Hamilton,
Here.
Hardy, Potts, Wheeler.
Here.
We have a quorum for CETA. Now the Housing Advisory Committee. Amagashi,
yeah,
Clary,
Here,
Gorman, Maldonado,
Here.
McKee,
here,
Mertens,
Here.
Perry,
here,
Shimming,
Here.
Wofford. We have a quorum for Housing Advisory Committee.
All right, thank you. Sure. Go down to item 5A. Okay. We'll come back later to do the approval of the minutes for CETA and move on to item 5A, resolutions and ordinances. We have before us under 5A, resolution R-17-22, resolution to extend the life of tax increment district number 6 by 1 year to fund a rent-to-own townhome workforce housing program and capitalize a Fitchburg housing revolving loan fund.
I move approval.
I second.
We will actually have to do two separate motions, so Julio, you could, if you wanted to have the motion on behalf of CETA, we would need a second from a CETA member, and then I believe we would need to do the same for the housing advisor.
Yes. I'll second.
I second Andy.
For Julio. Mark can hit second.
It doesn't matter.
I think I heard Mark.
So do we need a motion for Housing Advisory Committee?
no, that's not approval.
Second.
I can't hear what they're saying.
We have the motion from Olivia. We need a second for Housing Advisory Committee.
I'll second.
Okay, we have our motions and our seconds. And on to the resolution itself. Mike?
Now, I think Finance Director Misty Dodge is online with us, and she's going to lead us off on this agenda item.
Take it away, Misty.
You. So TID 6 is the TID that's over in the Verona Road, McKee area. So it was Target, Verona, etc. It was created several years ago, I believe it was 2003. And we're at the point now we're ready to start closing it down. One of the nice things about having a successful TID is that there's an opportunity to do an affordable housing extension. And that's what's in front of you today. So with your approval, we would like to keep the TID open for an extra year. What that means is that last year of increment revenue that's generated, which is 2.7 million, that will get deferred from the TID into an affordable housing fund. That affordable housing fund is already established. We did this a couple years back when TID 7 closed as well. That's how we paid for the housing study or the housing plan and some other things. But this is quite a bit more amount of money. They'll be able to further some of those initiatives. So the plan is to keep the TID open, do that affordable housing extension, and then spend that money on that rent-to-own townhome product that I know you guys have been talking a lot about. So I won't get into details on that, but that's how we would intend to spend the money. The statutes do require that we have to spend it 75% of the money that we generate from this action has to be spent on affordable housing, and the remaining funding can be spent on general housing. So our plan would be to spend it all or as much as is needed to implement that program, that rent-to-own program. And then there's some other items in that housing plan that if there's additional funding available, we would look at doing some more of those other items that are in that plan.
Okay. Makes sense.
I would just chime in that we're really excited about the opportunity for the housing extension. As you may remember, when we did the housing parameters working with H&A advisors on the rent-to-own program, there was line item identified about a need of about $2 million to do the rent-to-own townhome pilot program, and we will be working on phase 2 of that to look at specific sites here in 2022. So the fact that this is kind of an accelerated closure of TID number 6 will bring us the additional increment for the housing extension that would allow us to do that program if we land on a specific site. The other thing I would just mention is, I think this is an example of the benefit of TID. TID 6 did a lot of heavy lifting for us. Not only did it allow us to create the Fitchburg Road extension that allowed the whole Orchard Point Super Target, Staybridge Suites, Hy-Vee development to reclaim a former quarry, but then we also kept it open and we expanded and extended Spoke and Sprocket to get out front as a reliever road for the Verona Road reconstruction, the 7-year road reconstruction project. It helped to pay for the upgrades to McKee Road as part of that reconstruction project, and it also helped us pay for the Nesbitt Road roundabout that alleviated a lot of traffic congestion over there at Nesbitt Road and Fitchburg Road. So I think it's a great example of a lot of good infrastructure that was invested with our regional partners, and now we'll have the housing extension. So very successful TID number 6.
Okay. Are there any members wishing to speak on this item? All right, seeing none. We have a motion and a second before us. Would you like us to do 2 separate roll calls, one for housing, one for CETA? Okay, well, would you like 2 separate votes? I misspoke on roll call. Okay. So we'll do 2 separate votes, one for CETA and one for housing. So for CETA members, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed signify by saying nay. The resolution is adopted by CETA. For the Housing Committee, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And that resolution is adopted. Then on to the related item 5B. This is resolution R-18-22, adopting ARPA TID number 6 closure investment plan. And as with before, we would need separate motions from each entity.
I move approval.
I move approval.
Okay, I think that's the Housing Committee. Jonah, live.
So we had a motion from Joe for the Housing Advisory Committee. We need a second from Housing.
I'll second it, or, yeah.
Yep.
I move approval.
Okay. Motion from Jim to approve,
Second.
and second from Julia. Okay. Misty, are you covering this as well?
Sure, I can. For a little bit of background, we did have a special committee of the whole meeting that provided a lot more context. The presentation was included at the back of that actual proposed investment plan. So if you're interested in more than the kind of high level stuff I'm talking about today, that information is available there. So ARPA is the American Rescue Plan Act. It's the federal COVID money, essentially. And then the TID 6 that we just talked about closing, shortly after we approved the affordable housing resolution, we'll actually do the closure of this TID 6. And there has been excess increment generated in that TID. So at the end of the life, we will end up sharing that excess increment across all of the overlying jurisdictions. The city of Fitchburg is going to get about $2 million. We expect. We have to go through final audit and all of that first to get the exact number. So we expect $3.2 million in the ARPA money, $2 million in the TID closure money. All of that money is one-time money, right? So we want to make sure that we're being very strategic about how we use it. And so we are going through a process to identify these top level priorities because there are an absurd amount of different ways that we could spend it. We want to make sure we have kind of what the top tier priorities are established. And then after those are established through this investment plan process, then we will direct staff to look more into the details of how to get some of those priorities established. And it'll go through the CIP and the budget process. So this is a very high level kind of initial step in deciding how we want to spend that about $5 million. So included in the packet is the mayor's proposed investment plan. Council did ask that we refer it out to all of the committees that have a meeting between when it was released earlier this week to when it gets adopted at the end of March. So that's why it's coming to both of you. Not necessarily to approve it, but more to share your thoughts if you have ideas on either things that you don't think should be a priority that are in there currently, or things that you think should be a priority that aren't in there currently. And you have multiple Alder representatives on the call today that would then put an amendment in on behalf of the committees if they thought that it was a good idea. So this is your chance to kind of talk about the plan, share what your thoughts are with those council members to maybe change what would be included in the final version.
And I would just add a couple of other things of note from community and housing and economic development standpoint. A couple of items that you see in there are neighborhood dollars for neighborhood planning for the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood. That's south of Lacey Road at Fitchburg. That's one of our future urban growth areas, and we would need to go through a neighborhood plan first for us to be able to then go forward to CARPC to add that to our urban service areas. So as we try and stay ahead of the need for land for additional growth and development, and especially for single-family lots here in Fitchburg, that's an important neighborhood that we would like to get started on the neighborhood plan process. Then as we shift over to the east side of the city, just along Sain Road, there is the Greenfield neighborhood. That's another future urban growth area. So we would like to get both of those started. And so this one-time money would allow us to move forward with the planning for future long-term growth and development there. So those are two key items from kind of a CETA and housing advisory perspective. Then we also are excited to see money for a broadband consultant in there to move us forward on that front. In this day and age, broadband is as important as sewer and water and roads from an economic development and community development standpoint. So that's also in a line item that's in there that we're excited about. And then additional bus shelters, that's kind of an extension and continued implementation of our branding program and commitment to transit. So just wanted to mention a couple of items that are of interest to us from the CETA and staff perspective.
Okay, very good.
Okay, were there any members wishing to speak on this item?
Can I make a comment?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so each alder will bring some, amendments to the proposed investment plan that the mayor has proposed. I have more project of the idea that I want to bring forward, but I am fully in support of the neighborhood planning because we need to consider, how the city is going to grow in the next 5 to 10 years, where are the areas, where are the neighborhood, and I think this is great because especially this planning, costs a lot of money. So if we can use TID money to pay for that, this will be great, good use. The other thing, Mike, that we discussed in previous conversation was about, other thing that I would like to see is how we can create allocate some funds, matching funds to create like a business incubator here in the city. Do you remember, do you want to expand a little bit more about that?
Sure, we had just talked about that, as an initiative for either an incubator or kind of co-working space. I know we've only got so much money, so I don't think that rose to the top in this initial kind of round of ideas and suggestions there, but that's still something that we'd like to kind of maybe find a private sector partner that we could collaborate on to develop some of that kind of space here in Fitchburg. As you may remember, previously over here in the Fitchburg Technology Campus, we had the new Venture Center buildings, and there still is the first building that operates under that model to some degree. The other two buildings that we had along Nobel Drive there have been since been acquired by Promega Corporation. So they've which is a really good thing as far as Promega space needs. But we've kind of gotten away from that business model and that space being available for some of those smaller science and tech companies. So those are conversations that we continue to have with some of our private development partners as they're looking at projects around the city, just saying that it would be good to find a partner that we could work with on a business model for incubation and kind of co-working and acceleration space.
May I speak?
May I speak too? Okay, go.
Hold on, Joe first and then Julia.
Sure. I haven't read the mayor's plan yet, just because it was released yesterday. I plan to do that this week. But one of the things that I've been doing is having conversations with either chairs of committees that I sit on or community partners. So I, to the point discussed earlier about, possible business incubation, I'm in conversation with the Latino Chamber, and I'm kind of waiting on them to talk about their needs related to business incubation. And I do plan on introducing an amendment during this process related to that. So more details are coming, but that's something that I have an interest in, as well as Alder Radafrada.
Okay. Julia?
Yeah, so other ideas or priority in my economic development plan is to, this is something that I wanna throw out to you to have your comment is, I was thinking, if you read the ARPA final ruling, it put a lot of emphasis on helping, on investing in areas where we have qualified census tract or area where there are social economic disparity. And we have, in Fitchburg, we have 2 of those areas. And also we have how we can build healthy communities, the focus, and food insecurity. So I was thinking that also helping a small owner with loans or grants. So I was thinking about, can we forgive the loans that we already gave to the business owner last year? That one could be an option, that we can use the ARPA fund to forgive those loans, and convert those loans in grants. Second is how we can invest more in the healthy neighborhood areas, especially in the food insecurity areas. We have a local not-for-profit called Little Jones that is doing a lot of food insecurity programs and helping a lot of Fitchburg residents. So, and also how we can help that not-for-profit. How can we maybe fund a capital expenditure, a big equipment that they have, so they can move forward with this, with the building, opening of the building in Verona Road. And also I was thinking how we can add more capital for the next 3 years to the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative grant program. Maybe we can add another $50,000 each year, or 25, or whatever it is. So there are a lot of opportunity for us, and a lot of idea how we can use the money. Especially, my focus is to have this process to be fair, that we don't use all the money for one thing. We had to spread this, this funding in different areas, and my focus especially is working on the area where we have more social and economic disparities.
Okay. Actually, I had a question from Misty. Again, kind of like Joe, I haven't had a chance to really read through this since it just came out, but am I reading it correct that there's about a $200,000 difference between the funds available and what's proposed in the spending plan?
Yes, so this isn't a budget. This isn't a dollar for dollar allocation of how we're going to use the funding, so that's okay at this point. And really, if there's other ideas, that people are welcome to add additional funds without having to take things away. This is just kind of that first scrape of things that you want us to explore more thoroughly, so that staff's not, exploring things that are not of interest to the elected officials. So it's the elected officials setting those priorities. We will then kind of move forward with that first step of it. So it's okay that there is that discrepancy there.
Okay, are there any other?
Yeah, can I
Joe?
add one more thing?
Sure.
I also want to just point out in the guidance from the federal government, the final rule, that throughout that document, 400 some pages, you sort of constantly hear the word equity, 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 equity. So, I just want to say that from my vantage point, reading it, as well as just, being an elected official, I, intend to really push for us to invest in communities that have the highest level of need, because that's something that's sort of consistently spelled out in the document. And that as we think about using these COVID-19 relief funds, we think about populations that are most heavily impacted by COVID-19, whether it be the pandemic and the disease directly, or sort of the byproducts of that disease, whether it be, folks going out of business, the disruption of economic stability in families, that's something that we should just really ensure that we're honing in on as a council and as a city as we think about how to invest these funds.
Julia?
Yes, and another initiative that the mayor already put in his plan that we discussed in a committee of the whole was, I know that the city is working in a grant to fund the bee cycle, but in case that we don't get a grant, I think we should allocate some, ARPA funds or TIP, or ARPA fund, they qualify for ARPA, for this initiative in the whole city. We can fund the whole city, But I would like to know, what do you think, especially the member in CEDA, what do you think to convert the loans to grants? Because I am planning to put together a resolution and I would like to know the feedback.
I guess I would have a question back to staff of, are we having a problem with people repaying the loans?
Currently, everybody, I think, is current on their loan repayments.
We already actually have one who paid it off early.
But I don't think that this is the issue. The issue is, is how we can help. I know that the city at the moment provided a loan, but now that we can use those ARPA funds, how we can, we can convert our loans in a grant so they can, so some of them they're still making this payment, but if we can relieve them from doing that, it would be great. I don't know.
Julia?
Oh, I think Misty had a comment too. I'll get to you.
Just want to mention, so the ARPA funding would not be an option for giving those loans because we didn't go through the beneficiary requirements when they were issued. But we could use the TID money to forgive those loans, or since this was actually a CEDA program, CEDA could choose to forgive those loans as well, but it wouldn't be ARPA eligible.
Joyce?
I guess from a staff perspective, since you asked Julia, if you recall, these funds for the loans actually came from our revolving loan fund. So once we deplete that fund, we have no way to replenish it. So from a staff perspective and from a Joyce Fry perspective, I have a concern about doing that, because once the funding's gone, it's gone.
Is it possible?
Oh, go ahead.
I want to give a perspective of somebody who has a finance background. I think so far, so good in terms of loans and repayments. Let's not start singing the Hallelujah chorus now. From what we saw yesterday from the Fed, I think we might have certain problems going forward. What I like for us to do as a city is to be a little proactive by keeping the money out until we know what's happening. if any of our loans were having problems, that might be something that that we'd like to, to handle on an individual basis. I think Joyce's idea makes sense to me. I'd rather have us have a surplus when and if there's a problem than to sit up and start dishing money out. I mean, this is just the beginning of the year. Make no mistakes about it. So let's be a little cautious. That's just an advice from my end.
This is Mark. I would agree with what's been said. I think we got to watch that and not change the scope of where we started with this. And if something comes up later in the year, then we do so. But I think there's a number of needs in the city. And I think that we need to also focus on those. But that's my 2 cents. But I think what Godwin just said, I agree with him 100%, and Joyce 100%.
Olivia?
I just want to observe that, when people are making their payments, just because they're making their payments, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that it's not causing hardship or problems on the other side. Sometimes, when you have a loan obligation, you are making sacrifices, and sometimes significant sacrifices, in order to, make those payments. It seems like maybe a logical step to determine whether or not you want to do this is to survey the borrowers to determine, where they're at. Are these loan payments presenting a hardship? Are they not? So you can really have a more accurate read. I mean, people tend to do whatever they can to make their payments, but maybe it might be causing, some sort of a hardship on their side. So,
except of course that sometimes in doing what you suggested, Olivia, you gave people an idea that wasn't out there. My point is that if they're having problems, Joyce and Mike are there, they will be the first individuals to know, and then we'll be able to deal with that. Don't go around looking for solutions when there's not a problem.
Okay. Were there any other comments on this particular? Go ahead, Dan.
And the making of the loans, and they were loans. They were not.
That is correct.
They were not grants. The grant issue was presented and rejected because we wanted to keep the revolving loan fund available for future events when it might be appropriate and necessary to use that. And CEDA is not in a position to be handing out money because it's not not like the federal government, and the payments that have been coming to help against the coronavirus pandemic. We have limited funds. We tended to use those funds for a specific purpose. We made the loan that people promised to repay, and they ought to be held to that. Now, if it's the difference between paying us back and feeding their family, well, then we got to look at that. But unless and until that event occurs and it's brought to Mike and Joyce's attention, I think we just put our head down and plow ahead.
Concur.
Okay. Any other comments, I guess, in particular on the revolving loan fund question? Otherwise, if there are any other comments on the larger.
I would just say that the only question I would have is maybe who would not be applying for this because it's a grant or because it's a loan and not a grant. And it might make sense to just, if we haven't done it, I haven't been involved in CETA conversations in a while, but if there's some sort of way to scope out maybe who's gone out of business or who's at threat because maybe a loan wasn't enough, that might be kind of a step to address some of the comments earlier about, we don't know who's not coming to us.
Well, let me just add again from experience the absence of money or whatever, that money is not really the only reason businesses go out of, entities go out of business. My point is that what we have so far is working. And my understanding is that our staff is close to those entities. If and when they have a problem, we will deal with it. Let's not sit up here and begin to have solutions when we don't have a problem. I mean, it's fine, we've got some money up now, but that's not how it is all the time. Sometimes there might be a time when we don't have enough money, then we have a problem. My point is hold off and let's see the direction of the economy. Something major happened yesterday. And so if interest rates begin to go up, that's going to have a direct impact on businesses per se. With that in the back of our mind, the logical thing is to hold up and monitor what's happening. Our staff are doing their job. I mean, the idea of giving grants sometimes is a disincentive for most people. The idea of that when they came to us, it wasn't the idea as my counterpart mentioned. My point here is that the issues that were raised are legitimate, but we don't have a problem. Let's not go looking for solutions now. Let's leave it up and see what's going to happen. This is still January. We've got 11 more months to go. When and if there's a problem, if they come to us, we will deal with that.
Just on my perspective from this, I can't see, I can't tell. Marshall, do you have your hand up? No? Okay. I guess I agree with what some of the other comments have been in that we did establish this as a loan program. I don't think we've been hearing concerns, at least Mike and Joyce have not been hearing concerns about repayment at this point. If there's an interest in doing a grant program, and at this point we've really closed the loan applications, we're not taking new applicants for this program. I guess I don't see a reason, unless we hear that there's a need to start forgiving loans for people, if the council and CETA and others determine that a grant program is needed. I'm not saying that that shouldn't be, but I think we should separate the two and not start dipping into the revolving loan fund dollars to do that. Are there any other comments on this item or the larger ARPA TID 6 closure investment plan? Okay, seeing none, we have a resolution before us. There's been a motion and a second. I would first do a call for CETA. All those in favor of adoption of the resolution signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. And then the Housing Advisory Committee, all those in favor of adopting the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And the resolution is adopted. I believe turn it over to Olivia for.
So at this point, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the Housing Advisory Committee. Let me, yep.
Second.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed. So we are going to adjourn the Housing Advisory Committee. Thank you so much for everyone being here this morning. Good to see you. We'll see you at the next meeting. Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Joyce.
Thanks, Housing Advisory Committee, for joining us. Appreciate it.
Okay. We'll go back up on the agenda to item 3. 3A is approval of the December 9th, 2021 minutes. Those are included in your packet.
Andy?
Yep, Mark?
I have a correction to the minutes that I sent a note to Joyce, and I'm trying to read it on my phone. I was a little bit misquoted in about asking the city for future funds for bike share. The initial dollars that Trek is out raising now and the CETA dollars is for infrastructure in this project. After year 3, there will be some ongoing funds required that Trek plans to go back to the sponsors for, and that's going to be Trek's job. And I just wanted to make sure we clarify that through the minutes. And then I'll talk a little bit more about that TAP grant later on in the meeting. So, yeah, just to clarify that was, I wanted to get that in the minutes to get it corrected. Joyce has my wordage. Joyce, you want to add anything?
Joyce is shaking her head no, so
No,
she doesn't have
you're
your
gonna
correction.
need to go tell me what paragraph and what language you want changed,
Okay.
Mark, because
Okay.
I
I'm
didn't
gonna
quite
have to send you-
understand what it was.
Okay. I'm going to have to send you a note then, Joyce. So how do you want to do this? Because I'm sitting here on my iPad Zooming and I'm trying to look on my phone to get the information.
I think we could postpone voting on these till the next meeting if you want.
Yeah, if we can't get it now, I think we would have to wait.
Okay, I'll send you the exact thing, wordage in later on this, that's fine. I apologize to the committee, but I just caught that when I left town and I sent Joyce a note from the airport.
Okay. And we'll postpone item 3A until our next meeting. Item 4 is public appearances for non-agenda items. We have no members of the public with us in the council chambers. Did we receive any Zoom requests? Seeing no. Item number 5, resolutions and ordinances, we have already taken care of. Item number 6 is hotel room tax report considerations. This document was sent out separately.
And we don't really have any considerations. We just wanted to kind of give you a snapshot of where we're at so you can see for 2021, we're just shy of 250,000 in revenue through the third quarter. The fourth quarter isn't due yet until February here. So we just wanted to give you a snapshot on where we are. Last year in all of 2020, we came in just under 200,000. So it's trending better, and we're hoping to see what the numbers are, or looking forward to seeing what the numbers are in the fourth quarter here. But we're still operating more or less under kind of a stress test status quo budget here. We're not really fully engaging in some of the promotion and marketing activities that we've done before until we've got a better handle on where the room tax is at this point in time.
All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Page 2. We have 250,000 we've collected, and we've spent or earmarked 238,000. Well, 230. Mine's not colored, Mike. I'm old-fashioned that way. But it says the 12/31/21 actual is 235,567. That's what we've spent or earmarked to be spent, and we've collected 249.
Oh, which page are you looking?
Page 2.
Mike, I can't hear you.
We've maintained our memberships. We haven't done additional sponsorships, but we've kind of tried to maintain our memberships in organizations to keep those partnerships going. But as you can see under promotional expenses, they're a very limited amount.
We cannot hear Mike.
we'll see what we can do.
Okay, can you hear me now? Is that better? Okay. I just said that under publications, dues, and subscriptions, we've kept our memberships in organizations, but we haven't done some of the annual sponsorships of events and activities just because of the reduced room tax dollars. We've got very limited amount in the promotional expenses. The transfer to the general fund is for a percentage of Joyce and my salary that is funded through room tax. And then we've got the 70%, which is the 174,953, that per our agreement with the Fitchburg Chamber Visitor Bureau, they're our official tourism entity in Fitchburg, so that automatically gets allocated to them. But we don't have any requests at this point in time for consideration.
Well, that's good, because we don't have any money to consider,
We live within our means.
clearly. Thank you.
And I guess one thing to note too, the 249 is only 3/4 at this point. They still have the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on our hotel room tax report? Seeing none. Item 7 is peer community housing programs. Those items were included in your packet. Joyce?
So as we discussed, the closure of TID number 6 and the funding that's going to be coming forward for affordable housing and housing in general. We took a look at the housing plan, and there are some items in there that mention maybe some programming for disrepair, items like that. So what we did is we put together some programs from our peer communities for both the Housing Advisory Committee and CETA to take a look at, and then compare to kind of some of the recommendations in the housing plan. And then what we're hoping to do is have the Housing Advisory Committee come back and give some recommendations on what type of programming they think would benefit the city best based upon the needs of the housing plan. So I'm gonna just ask that CETA do the same, review those different programs, and then after we meet with the Housing Advisory Committee and get their recommendations, and we can discuss them as well. So a little homework for you, because I know you guys have nothing better to do. Right? Right, Jim?
So,
Joyce,
can I
or
speak,
sorry,
Andy?
go ahead, Julia.
Yeah, the other thing that I know we talk about what we can do with the, the TID closure and to keep the increment to fund the housing fund. I think we need to look also, I don't know, the concept that about land banking is when, you can buy the piece of parcel that is vacant in an unused area, or where an area where, the city think in the future could be future value, we can do something. Also is to invest in those, to look at those, if we have areas, piece of parcel in the city where the city can benefit in the future for some housing, affordable housing project or senior housing project, that we can, be more proactive as a city. This is a concept that is used in this country and as another tool to build affordable housing in communities. So maybe this is something that we can take a look at that too. I don't know, I would recommend that if the housing committee can take a look at this, or, to determine if we can, is it possible? This is a recommendation, okay? So that one is my comment too.
Julia, do you know any other communities that are are actively doing that I could maybe do some investigation. Because I think when you say the Housing Advisory Committee, it's really Mike and myself that do the research and we present it to. So it would be helpful if you know someplace that's doing it, that I could look and see if there's some policies or something out there, if you want to just
Yeah,
send.
I can take a look at my research. I don't remember by the top of my head, but I can look at all my, document to see, okay?
That'd be great, thanks.
Okay.
Excuse me, I don't understand. Julia, are you suggesting that the city of Fitchburg become a elderly housing developer?
No, I think I am suggesting that maybe we can buy a piece of parcel, and to hold that for, for our affordability, in the future, we have a project where it's an affordable housing project, but the problem, the issue is, we heard, is the land. The land in Fitchburg is so expensive. How the city has come some skin in the game and be proactive, and maybe we can say, okay, here we have this piece of land, how we can work together.
So that's.
I don't know how you call it, but I don't know,
I'm still confused. The city buys the land, and then it partners with developers in building affordable housing? Is that what you're talking about?
It could be like that, yes.
So I think, so in essence, the city would be helping to subsidize the land cost, I think is.
But it would be remaining as an equity owner in that project.
That
Yeah,
I
it
don't
could be
know.
similar. Yeah, I don't know how you can structure that. There are several ways to do it, So this is why I'm throwing this out there to look for that, and all the possibility and options. And maybe something that the city say, no, we don't, I don't think that is viable for us to do that, but at least we need to take a look at that. I don't know all the legal behind the scene, how this works, but I think it's been used in other parts of the country, so.
Okay, yeah, if you could get information to Mike and Joyce, they can then send out, or at least to get them pointed in the right direction. Okay, any other comments on the pure community housing programs? If not, move on to agenda item 8, Economic Development Director and Committee Member Reports. Mike?
And Joyce is going to kick us off. One of the things we just wanted to report on is some of the requests, site selection requests that we've been receiving, and just what those requests have entailed, the types of requests, industry, the amount of acreage, and things like that. These flow kind of via the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation and then regionally down through the Madison MadRep, our regional partner.
So I want to give just kind of a very quick overview of what we've been up to as far as responses. And just kind of share some of the challenges that we have as well, just as we're talking about looking at neighborhood plans and planning for future economic development initiatives. So we had, I believe, and don't, this is just a rough kind of estimate of our responses, but we received about 8 responses from MadRep. And of the 8, we did respond to 5 of them. However, of the 5, most of them were looking for an existing building, but was willing to look at sites as well. So we had a pharma, a IT, a manufacturer, And let's see, what other ones do we? Actually, we had two manufacturers that we actually provided information on land. Some of the ones that we weren't able to respond to were looking for facilities that ranged in the square footage of 150,000 square feet to up to 500,000 square feet. And some of the responses were looking for a minimum of 40 acres of land. So our challenges are finding not only the amount of acreage that they need, but also the proper zoning, and that a project can be ready to go within, a couple quarters to actually start construction. We had some with requests like they wanted access to rail, which we were able to respond to that. We had a chemical company that we just didn't find a spot that we felt was appropriate for that company. Let's see. And then we had a food processor that was looking for 30 acres, but noted that there would be dust, noise, smoke, things like that, which the land that we did have available really wouldn't be a cohesive neighbor to them. So we just wanted to give an overview of kind of where we are at with responses for site selection. Keep in mind that the city of Fitchburg doesn't own any land, so all of our searches, we have to reach out to our private sector partners and ask that they put together kind of the response, with the city filling in the holes on some of the questions that are directly related to some of the functions we do.
We just wanted to kind of give you a high-level overview. It's on the existing building front, it's a good-bad situation. It's good that we don't have a lot of vacancy here, but in the situation where we get a request for proposal for an existing building, then we don't have options to submit for those applications and everything. So we kind of get left out of that process and everything. From an acreage standpoint, we've been very creative as far as coming up with options for kind of the 20-acre, which is usually where we kind of get most of the requests. And we've been working closely with not only Payne and Dolan over on the west side of the city. There was some of the acreage that they still have available to submit and respond to RFP requests. And then over here on the east side of the city with the Hartung property that Sarah Investments is working on a comprehensive development plan for, that's allowed us to submit for some of these RFPs. But one of the reasons that we wanted to share this information with you is as we start to look at those neighborhood plans, both South Stoner Prairie and Greenfield that were identified in the ARPA TID list there, the need for some larger tracts of land for kind of clean manufacturing, light industrial is a need and a priority for us if we're looking at responding to more of these RFPs that flow through WEDC and MADREP.
Andy?
Julia?
Yeah, so Mike, my question to you, because, as you know, I also part of MADREP, so, and I have an idea about site selection and, my concern is how we, you mentioned that, so one of our deficits as a municipality is the number of parcels, 20 acres for light manufacturing. We don't have that. So how we can, what do you think that we need to do in order to, to improve that, or to get more parcels? What do you think are what do you think that we need to do as a city to create those sites? Because eventually if we don't do anything, we are going to be competitive to attract company to the city because we don't have the parcel to accommodate those companies. So, you know what I mean? So do you have an idea how many parcels do we have in the city that can be attractive for site selection, and
Right.
what are the things that we need to do to move forward, to create that inventory?
Sure, I think right now, Joyce and I have been very creative and collaborative with both, again, the Hartung property and Payne and Dolan to position us to be able to respond to the RFPs that have currently been coming in. As Joyce indicated, once you start to get up to 40 acres, we really don't probably have acreage that we can respond, one 40-acre parcel necessarily for some of those requests. And that's why we're bringing it to CETA's attention here, and one of the reasons also why we encouraged in the ARPA and TID money there to look at the neighborhood planning for both South Stoner Prairie and Greenfield, because hopefully as we go through those two neighborhood plan processes there, I think some larger areas and tracts of land that would be available for clean manufacturing, light industrial, is something that we think is a need and a priority that hopefully comes out of those neighborhood planning process. So that's why we're kind of bringing it to the forefront and hopefully being proactive to identify that as a need and priority. So as we start those neighborhood plan processes, that rises to the top going forward. We do have smaller, tracts of land, and sometimes, again, it's based on the individual request. There are some that kind of fit in, let's say, uptown Fitchburg that wouldn't fit or, align elsewhere, and vice versa. And then I think, as Joyce indicated, I think one of the other things we maybe need to look at is with some of our zoning classifications there, especially in that industrial category, where maybe there's a refresh of what I would call more that industrial commercial or industrial specialized sector there, that ours is more narrowly focused from a zoning standpoint. And I know the city of Madison went through a rewrite of that category some years ago that provides a little bit more flexibility and wider spectrum of uses that fall within that industrial, commercial, and industrial specialized category, especially when you get into that office flex space for some of those science and tech and business professional companies. A little bit more flexibility in that area and category would be helpful as we try and find space for people or find locations for companies and RFPs that we get requests for. That's it. Okay. Then I'm going to, now we're switching over to me at this point in time. One announcement I wanted to make is the Healthy Neighborhood Grant cycle is now open for 2022, and those requests and applications are due on February 22nd is the cycle for that one. And then hopefully, if I can do this right, I wanted to give some updates here for you from a development front standpoint, but I need to share my screen, so bear with me as I hopefully get this correct. Can you all see that? There we go. This is a presentation that City Administrator Chad Brecklin and I did recently for First Weber Realtor. So I just wanted to take you through a couple of slides because sometimes I rattle off a lot of projects here, and I thought it might be helpful to give you a visual at this point in time. So this is just to show you that we continue to have healthy building permit construction activity. And again, that's one of the reasons why we need to stay out front with proceeding with these neighborhood plans. So we keep an inventory of land for residential, but also business, industrial, and commercial. But 2021 was another healthy year for us at $149 million in building permit construction activity. And then I'm just going to flip through some of these other slides. This slide here shows you the vacant land in the existing urban service area, so you can kind of see the tracts of land that we do have throughout the city. We're just shy of, or we're around 1,000 acres here. But again, sometimes we don't always have the size of parcel or land available, or sometimes, you know, a lot of this is designated for residential and neighborhood development and not necessarily for business and commercial and industrial. And then here's the latest project on the Fitchburg Center Promega campus. This is the USONA Institute that's under construction now on the North Hill of their property. This is for the research and development for therapeutics for anxiety and depression. So this is the latest project coming on their campus.
What was the 1254 care unit?
The care unit.
Last one. 2 one-story, 1,254 care units?
Yeah, square feet. We should add a SF after that. And then Encompass Health, that's the physical rehabilitation hospital. I'm just going to go back to this slide here. The 2 yellow parcels on the south end of that map there is where Encompass Health is going to be locating. And I just emailed them and got a response yesterday. They're planning, they've got their plans kind of 95% completed, and now they're building construction plans, and they're thinking that they'll start probably the first part of the 3rd quarter. So we just got an update from them. The first phase of this is 40 beds, 40,000 square feet, but then it can be doubled in size on that site. So this will be in the Fitchburg Tech campus. And then Promega's Kepler Center, their kind of processing warehouse distribution facility. The existing building was 99,000 square feet, and they're adding another 135,000 onto that building right along Nobel Drive. And then the One Neck Data Center is already approved for a doubling of that facility. They would do that over 3 phases, but that'll be contingent upon kind of market demand for data center and IT space there. Then in Uptown, we continue to see robust apartment activity there. So the latest one that's under construction is the Vacant Apartments. Osprey opened in 2021. So this continues to kind of build in that trade ring area that we need to, that hopefully then will drive business and commercial activity. We've been in discussions with Avante now about lot 55. I don't know if you can follow my arrow here. It's just east of the railroad tracks right here, this small lot right there. And they're proposing a mixed-use building that would have residential apartments, and then it would have commercial space, probably another lounge by Hawk, who has the atomic koi over here. I think the brand is called Fitch's. And then they're looking to do kind of an outdoor placemaking pavilion as part of the smart code visioning. And then also probably an area where there would be like a food cart docking, so that way there would be food service for the lounge that would be there as well. So watch for that project to come forward this spring sometime. And then if you've been over by Sain Road and Lacey Road recently, you can see the Limerick Apartments there in the northeast corner. That's the affordable housing, 100 units of senior and then 26 units of townhome product for families of all ages. And then Quick Trip is, we're anticipating that they'll start construction at the southeast corner of East Sherrill and Sain Road this spring. As you can see, if you've driven by that area, they've already started demolition on that site and everything. So this will be their new 9,000 square foot C-store prototype, which basically kind of brings us the corner grocery store. So it'll start to be the first commercial activity over in that area. Then as we switch to the town of Madison, it's hard to believe that it's already been 20 years. And so the intergovernmental agreement for that area to come to Fitchburg will be in October of this year. But one of the projects that we did submit an application for is through the Neighborhood Investment Grant Program for some of the lots that are north of the large detention pond there, right along Rimrock Road. There's a chance that Rutabaga Paddle Sports, who's losing their lease in Monona, would relocate to that site and utilize that pond for their testing of canoes and paddle sport activities there. And then they would also do some affordable housing units. So we're waiting to see if we were successful with that grant application. And then there's a 4-story self-storage, vertical story, climate-controlled building that is just nearing completion there along Ski Lane. And then in the office building there along Ski Lane, I don't have that on the slide here, but the VFW post that was located on Lakeside Street that's relocating has purchased that building and is going to be relocating their operations in the lower level there. So we're anxious to see them open and operate. And I think they're going to be doing at least some type of food service, or maybe there's fish fries or things like that. So we're trying to get some information from them on what they'll be offering at that site. Then on the Fawside property, this is that Cleanfill site between Highway 14 and MM. Royal Capital Group, who you might remember we worked with on the renovation of the Maple Lawn Apartments some years ago, has had an option on this property. They're working with the property owner right now to extend the option on this property, but they are working with us as the city on planned development district zoning for this 37 acres here. That would be mixed use, about 400 and some housing units here with hopefully a balance of 50% ownership and 50% rental on this property. So we're hoping that this project continues to move forward. This is in TID number 11 over there on that property. Then on North Fish Hatchery Road in 2022, you'll start to see the building in the lower right-hand corner. The Oshala Mixed Use Building, this would be east of UW Credit Union between Fish Hatchery Road and Index Road. 170 market rate apartments and another 10,450 in commercial space. This is a project by Venture Capital, who did the Terrace Point apartments on the former juice plant site. So this will be another good project going forward, adding to the density and the purchasing power up on North Fish Hatchery Road. Then another project that you will start to see come forward, they had their pre-application meeting with the Plan Commission and are working with city staff right now, hopefully on their submittal for the General Implementation Plan, GIP, for PDD zoning. And this would be from the Plesco folks who have the Fairways and Pines. They own the land just north of Traceway Drive, across from the Highline Senior Apartments that opened a year and a half ago. And then it would be west of the Fitchburg Ridge Shopping Center. And this project would have 178 residential units. 149 of those would be market rate apartments. And then there would be 29 loft-style townhomes that would also be market rate product there. What's kind of cool about this is you've got the market rate apartments, but then the 29 townhomes kind of wrap the whole development and have individual entrances out to the street. So it really gives you, I think, a residential feel and character and starts to transform this area. And this would bring us kind of market rate product on the west side of the road that right now is a high concentration of affordable housing. So it's healthy from a trade ring demographic standpoint. Then we've got infill development here. This is just on those lots west of McKee Farms Park, lots 53 and 54. Andev Development and Encore are bringing forward a 72-unit assisted living building and 36-unit memory care. So this is a really good infill development that'll absorb lots 53 and 54 and bring us additional senior housing assisted and memory care capacity in Fitchburg, which we can use.
Mike, out of curiosity, what's the zoning classification on that?
That one's planned development district zoning that they're using there. Yeah, and they just got their SIP approval, I think, at the Plan Commission. Okay, then this slide just shows you Promega has finished their CMC, the manufacturing facility that's over there north of Lacey Road and west of Seminole Highway there. And then on this slide, you can see in the upper left the Mackenzie Workforce Development Center. That's the former Thermo Fisher building that you see as you enter their campus. That's being transformed into the Workforce Development Center for the trades, working with the Madison Area Builders Association. And then it'll also be the headquarters for the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. And then Discovery Storage in the right-hand corner is open north of Saris on the east side of Verona Road. And then on the upper right there where you can see the purple, this is a area where, again, Joyce and I were getting creative, trying to find a home for some additional warehouse distribution space that in our existing company, General Beverage, has because of some product decisions that are being made in the liquor distributorship world there. So we're working with Payne and Dolan to kind of carve out a 7-acre site for General Beverage to be able to come forward with a proposal there, and that's winding its way through the CDP process right now. And then in the lower left, Thermo Fisher has that larger parcel that would be west of the Badger State Trail, and then it's kind of just north and east of the Spoke and Sprocket Drive that traverses through their campus there. It's actually a larger, kind of 30, just shy of 35-acre parcel, and they're keeping the bulk of the land for themselves, but they want to go through a comprehensive development plan process to create a 7-acre site kind of right there on the front of McKee Road. So that would be between Spoke and the Badger State Trail, but a prime site right on McKee Road. Now we've got the Little Johns, who's doing the capital investment and renovation of the former A1 Furniture Building. And then the Anton Drive redevelopment plan, you might remember a couple years ago we had Myers that was looking at this site, and then they decided not to proceed to enter the Madison market. They also pulled out of their Sun Prairie proposal as well. But there have been a couple of developers that are having conversations with Bob Shea about their property over here, but so far nobody's come to terms or reached agreement with them to proceed with a neighborhood plan process for that. But we've met actually with 2 different development entities that Bob is having conversations with. Then at Orchard Point, if you've been over there recently, the Quarry Ridge Senior Housing Development is continuing to build out, and also the workforce housing right behind Hy-Vee, the Limestone Ridge Apartments. And then we've got a smaller project right on the bend of Nesbitt Road there that is coming forward with some commercial space and then some apartment units there. And then the Edgewood Athletic Fields, we were on the CARPC agenda in January for the public hearing for this proposal, and then we will be back for action or consideration and action hopefully at the February meeting, and then that would allow that project, that land would be added to the urban service area, and then it would allow Edgewood to come forward with their specific proposals at the city here for their project. And then on the right-hand side, we're working with Payne and Dolan for a new residential subdivision. This would be at the corner of Fitchburg and Lacey Road. There's a section there that drops down south of Lacey Road that's already in the urban service area that abuts then the South Stoner Prairie neighborhood plan that we want to move forward with there. But this will hopefully help us keep a pipeline of lots in the Verona School District there, 124 residential lots. So we're excited to keep that moving forward. Then just a few housing things here quickly. Stoner Prairie continues to build out now that they've extended the final road out to Lacey Road over here, so that provides us some lots. Crescent Crossing is having a brisk build out there. As soon as they build them, I think these are sold. As far as the smaller single-family homes over there, and then the townhome units that are duplex right there at the northeast corner of Seminole and Lacey Road. Quarry Vista's second phase is built out. We're not sure if we're going to get a third phase here or not. Some of it has to do with the economics of kind of reclamation of kind of the quarry there. So Keith Hammersley is kind of taking a look at that to see what makes sense and if there might potentially be a third phase. Then Fahey Fields, we've got the phases 3, 4, and 5 in the existing Fahey Fields, but now there's another approximately 90 acres in the lower right-hand corner here that are coming forward called Fahey South. And this is the map that shows the comprehensive development plan for that. And Veridian is actually going to be the developer of this entire Fahey South here. And it also includes in kind of this purple-blue area, a site for St. Ambrose Academy there. So there will be a school site located in this neighborhood. And then you've got single-family, multifamily, and then townhome duplex units as part of this whole neighborhood. And Viridian has indicated to us that they're going to do kind of the continuum of single-family housing, so it'll be everything from kind of the starter entry-level homes to larger parade-style housing in their portfolio. So real balanced neighborhood coming forward here. Then in Terra Vesa, this continues to see robust development over here. We've got lots 55 and 58 in the lower right-hand corner that are mixed-use buildings. It'll start to bring us the first commercial space in the Terra Vesa neighborhood. And then we've got the Riversong senior housing in the upper right here that hopefully will be coming forward later in 2022, probably in the fall. And then there's and I think, Jennifer, you mentioned this at a previous CETA meeting about a Texas wraparound building that they have one in Cottage Grove. And I know there's one under construction in DeForest as well. There's going to be, I don't have a picture of it here yet, but a 180-unit market rate apartment building. That's a Texas wraparound where the structured parking is in the middle, and then the apartment units kind of wrap that structured parking. So we'll be having one of those buildings come forward here in Terra Vesa. Then Inspiration Point is another one of those infill developments. This is kind of the last acreage that's available for development in Swan Creek. So this is East Sherrill Parkway here in Crinkleroot and Sassafras. So Fred DeVillers and his group is coming forward with a development that'll include some townhome ownership product, some duplex units, and then a CBRF facility as well. So that'll be one of the last build-out areas in the Swan Creek neighborhood. And then condominium development continues north of Lacey Road. We've got the Lacey Woods in Swan Creek. These are the duplex units that have been popular with kind of empty nesters. And then hopefully on the south side of Lacey Road at Notre Dame Drive, we'll have the Fitchburg Townhome 47-unit condo project coming forward, which would bring us some much-needed inventory of that product and ownership here in Fitchburg. And that's kind of the tour there. So we should have a good, healthy year again, I think, with construction activity. But one of the things that we all need to collectively focus on is how do we stay ahead of kind of some of that neighborhood planning that we need to do to keep available land and lots and inventory available to continue that growth going forward. Any questions?
All right.
Mike, can you share this slide with us?
Yep. Yeah, I can send it to you in a PDF.
Yeah, do you also have it saved in the website where I can grab the link to add it to my newsletter?
I don't have it there, Julia, but maybe give me a chance to do some updating to it. One of the things, you might remember this because I think you and I tag teamed a presentation to them before. I've been approached by the Smart Growth Greater Madison organization about wanting to come out to Fitchburg, and we're focusing on a date in March there. So let me maybe do an update, to the presentation, and I can send you a PDF of this version, but then let me do an update, and then we'll get you a fresher version as I prepare for that presentation with Smart Growth. And once I know the date of that too, I'll let you guys all know, because that's a good organization to kind of stay in collaboration with.
Yeah, I'd actually take a PDF of that as well, or maybe just send it out to the whole group.
Yeah, I'll send it to the whole group. Yep.
So I will make a comment. I will say, I want to thank Joyce and Mike because, this is a two-person team, and you can see all the growth that the city is going through. And I imagine all the calls that they receive for all the site selection and company trying to relocate. So, so thank you guys. And, I think you are a great economic development team. So good job.
Thanks, Julia.
Thanks, Julia. That's really sweet.
Can I just mention one other thing?
Sure.
We have an internal, as you know, again, the town of Madison, the Rimrock Road area and the Novation Campus Southdale neighborhood will be coming to Fitchburg by the end of October 2022, and then the North Fish Hatchery Road area. So we have an internal staff team that meets pretty much weekly now, to focus on a lot of transition issues there. And one of the things that we'll be doing is probably holding some neighborhood meetings. We're kind of anticipating maybe early May, and then probably another one in July and August as we transition, and having some meetings for not only the residents, but the businesses over there. And from some earlier presentations, you might remember there's about 95 businesses in total that'll be coming to Fitchburg as part of the land area that is designated to come to Fitchburg. So we're already starting to reach out to some of those businesses. Yesterday, City Administrator Chad Brecklin and I met with Quartz, who's located in the 4-story office building that's there west of Rimrock Road, and we've already met with Adams Outdoor Advertising. So we'll be doing some additional outreach to the businesses that are located there to start to welcome them to Fitchburg, but also to answer any questions that they have through this transition period as they come to Fitchburg.
Can I make a comment, Mike?
Go ahead.
Yes, when regarding the neighborhood meetings with these people, in the, for the town of Madison neighbors, most of them that are also Spanish speaking. If we can do one session in Spanish and I can volunteer, to be part of that, because there is I would say a large percentage of Latino speaking people living in that area too. So I will say that they will feel more comfortable if someone is speaking Spanish to him explain the process and, of the annexation. So,
No, definitely appreciate that, Julia, and we'll definitely incorporate that and plan for that.
All right, so I think that covers our development update and existing business update. Is there any venture debt program update?
No, we have, we've had 2 Zoom meetings, mostly to discuss defaults, shortcomings. Nothing in Fitchburg, though.
All right, thank you. Anything else under Economic Development Director and committee member reports?
Nothing else to report.
Okay. Then on to item number 9, which is announcements. Are there any announcements? Seeing none, item number 10 is adjournment. Oh, Mark?
Real quickly, back to our bicycle thing, and again, I apologize, I'm not home with my information, but the city has going to be submitting a TAP grant for phase 2 of the bicycle sharing program. And Mike, unless something's changed, is that still, can you give me a thumbs up? Is that still in the process that goes in tomorrow?
Yes, in fact, I think I got an email last night from my colleague Phil Groupie here, who's working on the application in the planning department. So I need to look through that today. I think he sent it to Angela and I in advance of the submittal for tomorrow.
Okay, and that will come to hit the underserved areas in Fitchburg that will evolve, and that money comes available in 2024. So phase 1's still ongoing, which you've already heard about, but we're going to look at expanding it and hitting phase 2. And as I said, hitting our underserved areas as well as some of the areas that may be impacted by the change in the transportation plan. So that's just an announcement. There's no need for action. It's FYI, and it's coming through our bike committee. So thank you.
And just to piggyback on what Mark mentioned there is we're working with Mark and the Trek folks that I think right now we're targeting that they'll come back to us in March for the B-Cycle program and that initial $50,000 that we had through our sports infrastructure. So we have to just go through a formal process to actually allocate that money to them. It's in our 2022 budget, but we're working with the finance department just on the pre-approval. But Trek wanted to wait until they had more of their sponsorships kind of included for the operating expenses for that program. So right now we're focused on March for that. And then I'll just add 2 other things that we're going to do kind of coming up, definitely in March, and there might be one in February and might be one in April. But I wanted to have some developers come and do a few updates for us so you can hear directly from them. So I have Phil Sveum scheduled for March to give us a really good update on Terravesa. And then I'm working with Avante, who has land, of course, in Uptown Fitchburg and then also in the Fitchburg Technology Campus to come and give us an update. They might be in February, April. I just have to kind of align schedules with them. But I thought it would be helpful for you to kind of hear from people that are actively involved on the ground, really from a development activity standpoint as we look to the future here. It might be helpful for you to get updates not only on their existing development, but it helps us kind of look forward.
Okay. Thank you,
Joyce
Mark.
has one more, I guess.
One more announcement.
Sorry, one just quick note. Mike and I have started the engagement with H&A as well. So we are working through some kind of amendments to their kind of proposal and scope of work. So we'll keep you posted on that as well.
Thank you.
Oh, and can I make a final comment?
Okay, one last announcement.
Yeah,
ahead.
so we are still looking for another CEDA member, okay? We are short, so if you know anyone with a, interest, it has to be a resident. I don't know, it has to be resident for which district, Mike? I don't,
It has to be a Fitchburg resident.
but it
It doesn't
matter
have to
in
be a
which
specific district, just
Okay,
definitely
okay.
residency, yes.
So you know of people that, that have some background in economic development of,
We-
and
we-
they are,
We've been kind of
Yeah.
putting, what would I say? We've got some communication out to various networks to help us hopefully identify some good candidates.
Yeah, we've been trying. Okay, item number 10 is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We are adjourned.